So, think about the most cynical, drunken, just irreparably broken character you've ever encountered in a book.
Oh, yeah. We all know exactly who you're talking about.
Right. But, like, what if that person actually started out as the most tender, the most hopeful person imaginable?
It's a completely wild concept.
It really is. Today, we are looking at the origin story of a man whose trauma essentially defined a whole generation of readers. We're doing a deep dive into Suzanne Collins' brand new prequel, Sunrise on the Reaping.
And the mission for this deep dive into the book is to finally, and I mean finally, unlock the absolute vault that is Haymitch Abernathy.
Yes, because, I mean, millions of you grew up with the original trilogy. You know the lore, right? You know the arenas, the politics.
Yeah, with Katniss and Peeta.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Haymitch was always like this massive mystery right at the center of it all. He was the abrasive, deeply intoxicated mentor everyone loved to hate.
And then, we slowly learned to love him, but he never actually let us in.
Never. He was just a sealed fortress. So today, we're unpacking the architecture of that fortress. We're looking at exactly why he is the way he is.
And I have to say, returning to Panem after all these years and reading this book, it felt incredibly personal.
Oh, completely. It felt like, I don't know, walking into your childhood home, but the shadows are stretched out and the air is just suffocatingly thick.
Yes. Like you suddenly realize the monsters in the closet were actually real the whole time.
Exactly, because you go into this narrative assuming you know the rules of the universe, right?
Right. You assume you know his whole trajectory. But Collins, she just strips away every single comfort, every preconception you brought with you from the original books. And she does it literally on page 1.
Yeah, let's jump right into that, actually, because the opening does not ease you in at all. It drops you into this really visceral, disorienting shock.
It really does.
I want to know about your reaction to those first few chapters. Because when I realized just how fundamentally different the young Haymitch is from the guy we thought we knew, I literally almost had to check the cover of the book.
I know, to make sure you're reading the right story.
Exactly. Like, is this actually Haymitch?
It forces a total cognitive reboot. Because the Haymitch we meet on the morning of his 16th birthday, which tragically is Reaping Day, he's not a cynic.
No, not at all.
He's not checked out, he's not sarcastic, and he definitely isn't, reaching for a bottle of liquor.
Right. He is just a boy who is desperately reaching for connection.
Yes. He wakes up, and his very first thought isn't about escaping reality, it's about his family.
And the specific granular details of his poverty in those first pages are so striking. It's not just some generic, oh, he is poor description.
No, it's deeply physical.
Right. He rolls out of bed and he puts on these shorts that his mother fashioned from a government-issued flour sack.
And right across the back of his legs, the fabric literally stamps the words,
courtesy of the Capitol.
Exactly. Courtesy of the Capitol. Think about the psychological weight of that for a second.
It's heavy.
Before he even speaks a word, before he steps out of his house, he is physically branded by his oppressors. He's wearing their ownership on his literal body.
And then he walks outside, and his mom is like meticulously saving hardwood ashes from the fire pit to make lye soap. She's boiling a kettle, grinding up eggshells for fertilizer.
It's the sheer grinding mathematics of survival. There is absolutely no room for error.
None. And he's fatherless. His dad died in a coal mine fire, which, is a ubiquitous trauma in District 12.
Right. Everyone knows someone who died in the mines.
So Haymitch has really stepped into this role of being fiercely, intensely protective of his mom and his 10-year-old brother, Sid.
Oh my God, Sid. Sid is the anchor of this whole early section.
He really is.
He wakes Haymitch up by jumping on him and yelling, "Happy birthday, I'm your rooster."
It's so cute.
It is. And it instantly humanizes Haymitch in a way that makes the adult version of him seem almost alien.
Yeah, it's so jarring.
But what truly fascinated me in these opening chapters isn't just his living conditions. It's his cognitive state. It's that philosophical debate he has in the woods with his girlfriend, Lenore Dove.
Oh, Lenore. Just saying her name out loud kind of breaks my heart now.
I know.
But that debate is so crucial because he goes out to the meadow and he's surrounded by these geese that Lenore raised, right? And they're talking about the inevitability of the reaping. And Haymitch says something that feels so incredibly heavy. He tells her the reaping is going to happen no matter what he believes or hopes for.
Right. He says it's as sure as the sun will rise tomorrow.
Exactly. Which is this brilliant piece of dialogue from Collins because it sounds like a simple, harmless idiom.
But Lenore pushes back on it completely.
Yeah.
She is this beautiful, dangerous, hopeful spark in his life.
She really is.
She tells him there is actually no definitive proof the sun will rise tomorrow, just because it happened in the past. She straight up calls his resignation faulty logic.
Yeah, she challenges him to imagine a world without a reaping. She asks him to just picture it in his mind.
And he can't.
He physically cannot do it. He tells her, I've never had a birthday that came without a reaping.
Let's analyze why he can't imagine it, though. Because the capital's ultimate goal isn't just physical subjugation. It's cognitive capture.
Cognitive capture, wow, yeah.
They want the districts to believe their oppression is an immutable law of nature, exactly like a sunrise. And Lenore refuses to accept that premise.
But Haymitch, at 16, has totally internalized it. Now, does he internalize it because he actually agrees with the capital?
Definitely not.
No.
All right.
And this is where I really want to float a theory here,
Yeah.
because I don't think his internalization is about submission. I think it's a psychological fire drill.
Oh, that's an interesting way to put it.
It's an emotional defense mechanism. He is actively trying not to hope, because in District 12, hope is a liability.
Right. It gets you killed, or it just breaks your heart.
Exactly. So he is deliberately exposing himself to this controlled burn of hopelessness every single day.
Wow.
Yes.
If you just accept that the world is a nightmare and the sun rises on a reaping every single year, you can't be blindsided when the nightmare inevitably shows up at your door.
That is exactly the mechanism at play. He is trying to preemptively grieve his own life so that the capital can't hurt him any more than they already have.
But the tragic irony is that this emotional armor he's trying to wear, it's completely ineffective.
It doesn't work at all. He cares so deeply. He loves his mother. He loves little Sid. He loves Lenore. He is desperately tethered to the world.
Which completely, fundamentally shatters my previous reading of him.
Yeah.
The tragedy isn't that adult Haymitch didn't care, it's that young Haymitch cared too much.
Oh, absolutely. He loved way too deeply for a world this cruel.
Seeing this fiercely grounded boy trying so hard to mentally shield himself, it just expertly sets you up for the exact moment that S.H.I.E.L.D. is irreparably destroyed.
Which leads us directly to the town square, the reaping itself. And this is the moment the narrative hooks you and just violently drags you under. Yeah, I want to break down the actual mechanics of this specific reaping, because this isn't a normal year. We are walking into the Second Quarter Quell, the 50th Hunger Games.
Right, so the capital is drawing twice the normal amount of children, 48 tributes instead of 24.
And Haymitch is doing the mathematical dread in real time in his head.
Yeah.
He has 20 slips in that glass ball because he's been taking Tesserae to keep his family from starving.
And because it's a quell, his odds are functionally doubled.
The atmosphere in the square is just suffocating. The entire district is holding its breath. Drusilla, the capital escort, steps up to the mic.
And she calls a 12-year-old boy first, Wyatt Callow, a literal child.
And then she calls Haymitch Abernathy.
The way the prose slows down in this specific moment, you feel the world stop spinning.
You really do. He was so incredibly close to escaping. He had this whole plan to meet Lenore in the woods later that afternoon.
And his name just echoes off the Justice Building.
But honestly, the true skin-crawling horror of this scene isn't just the drawing of his name. It is the introduction of the man directing the camera crews.
Plutarch Heavensbee.
Okay, stop. I have to admit, I was so confused and horrified when Plutarch showed up here.
Oh, same. It threw me completely.
Because we know Plutarch, we know him from the original books as the head game maker who secretly orchestrates the entire rebellion to overthrow President Snow, right?
Right. But here, 25 years earlier, he is just a lowly TV producer for the Capitol.
And he commits an act of such casual, horrifying sociopathy that I literally had to put the book down and walk away for a minute.
What Plutarch does in the square is the definition of the banality of evil.
Yeah, tell them what he does.
So Haymitch's mother and his little brother Sid obviously have this agonizing, visceral reaction when his name is called. The mother screams, the little boy collapses in tears.
Which is the normal reaction.
Of course. But Plutarch's camera crews missed the shot. The lighting was wrong, or the angle was blocked by someone's shoulder.
So what does Plutarch do? He stops the procession. He corrals a weeping, traumatized mother and a 10-year-old child, and he forces them to reenact their grief. For the cameras.
It's sickening.
He physically positions the mother behind Sid, adjusts them for better lighting, and literally says, in 3, 2, 1, action. He makes a mother perform her child's death sentence on cue.
How did you even process that, given what we know he becomes later?
I really struggled with it. I was so furious. I kept thinking, like, is he faking this sociopathy to blend in with the Capitol, or is this just who he actually was before he became a rebel?
It's the ultimate machinery of oppression either way.
Right. Because it's not enough that the state demands the blood of your children. They demand that you package your devastation into consumable reality TV.
And Haymitch has to stand up there on the stage and watch his mother gasp on cue just so she can earn the right to one final goodbye hug with him inside the Justice Building.
It makes me sick to my stomach.
It is a phenomenal distillation of how totalitarian regimes weaponize spectacle. Plutarch, at this stage in his life, is purely a creature of the media apparatus.
Yeah.
Whether he's already radicalized and playing a part, or whether this is the event that begins his radicalization, the result is exactly the same. Humanity is subjugated to the broadcast.
The Capitol's obsession with spectacle completely overrides human life, and we see the ultimate culmination of this obsession during the opening chariot ride in the Capitol.
Oh, the chariot ride.
That sequence just burned itself into my brain. So the tributes from District 12 are just in these absurd, neutral black outfits. They represent coal dust, but it basically just looks like they're going to a funeral.
Which they are.
Okay. And during the procession, there is a horrific accident with the horses. Luella McCoy, the other girl reaped from District 12, is thrown from her chariot.
And she dies. Instantly.
Right.
Right there on the evidence.
It is brutal. It is so sudden. And most importantly, it is completely unscripted.
Yes. It breaks the shiny, highly produced facade of the Capitol's broadcast. A child bleeding out on the street isn't the heroic, glamorous narrative the game makers are trying to sell to the audience.
And what does Haymitch do? He doesn't freeze. He physically picks up her dead body.
He just picks her up.
He carries this girl in his arms as his chariot continues the route, and he pulls right up under President Snow's balcony. He looks up at the dictator of Panem, holding this shattered corpse, essentially saying, look at what you've done. Look at the actual reality of your games without the editing and the lighting.
And Snow's reaction is what cements the absolute terror of the regime.
Yeah, talk about his reaction.
Because there's no outrage. There's no political panic about the broadcast being ruined.
Mm-hmm.
A silvery blonde curl falls onto Snow's forehead, and he just smiles.
Ugh.
He looks down at a grieving, furious, traumatized boy holding a dead girl, and he finds the entire tableau a trifle amusing.
A trifle amusing. Because to Snow, Haymitch isn't a human being reacting to a tragedy. Luella isn't a dead child. They are props. It's all just content to him.
Exactly.
But this is where the book performs this incredible sleight of hand. While the Capitol believes it is in total control of this spectacle, Collins is weaving this massive thematic thread underneath it all.
A thread that completely recontextualizes the entire political foundation of Panem.
Yes. You know what I'm talking about, the epigraph, the David Hume philosophy.
Yes, when I first read the epigraph before Chapter 1, I didn't fully grasp it, but by the time Haymitch is in the Capitol, it clicked, and it absolutely blew my mind.
Oh, if those listening, the quote is from the Scottish philosopher David Hume, from his essay of The First Principles of Government. And Hume writes that governments, even the most despotic and militaristic ones, have nothing to support them but opinion.
It's such a profound political theory.
It really is.
Hume argues that the few only govern the many because the many resign themselves to it. The sheer numbers are always on the side of the governed. Therefore, a dictator doesn't actually rule by physical force alone. They rule by manufacturing consent.
They rule by establishing a narrative of invincibility.
Right, which Collins brilliantly distills into a two-word concept in the book: implicit submission.
Implicit submission. When I read those words, I got chills.
Because it explains everything. The Capitol only maintains control because the people in the districts, and critically the citizens in the Capitol itself, agree to play by the rules of the narrative.
They submit to the illusion that the Capitol is an immovable mountain.
And here is the jaw-dropping reveal that literally had me pacing around my living room.
Tell me.
We discover that even 25 years before Katniss Everdeen volunteers, Plutarch Heavensbee is actively trying to break this concept of implicit submission.
Wait, really? Behind closed doors?
Yes. Away from the cameras, Plutarch corners Haymitch, and he tells him, no more implicit submission for you, Haymitch Abernathy. Blow that water tank sky high. The entire country needs you to.
Oh my God, I forgot he said it exactly like that. It completely reframes Plutarch's entire life's work.
Completely. He isn't just a game maker who suddenly decided to rebel one day. He has spent decades inside the belly of the beast, recognizing that the Hunger Games are the Capitol's most vital piece of propaganda.
Because the games rely entirely on the tributes playing their assigned roles. The Capitol needs the tributes to act like terrified victims or bloodthirsty monsters.
Right. Because if a tribute refuses the role, if they refuse to play the part the script demands, they crack the foundation of that implicit submission.
They show the districts that the Capitol's narrative is just a construct. It's made up.
Exactly.
And what I love so much is that Haymitch starts doing this before he even gets into the arena. He weaponizes defiance in these small, highly specific ways.
Oh, the scene with the sponsors.
Yes! Haymitch is covered in Llewellyn's blood. He's completely traumatized. And these wealthy, grotesque Capitol citizens are leaning over a railing, yelling down at him,
demanding his name so they can sponsor him.
Yeah.
Literally betting on his survival like he's a racehorse.
And Haymitch hawks a loogie and spits right in the face of a man who has embedded mirrors surgically placed in his cheeks.
It's so visceral. But then there's the milk in the library. That scene is a masterpiece of quiet insurrection.
Oh, the milk. Okay, so Haymitch is brought into President Snow's private library, and Snow is having this coughing fit, which, if you know the lore, is tied to the poison he drinks to maintain power.
About the bleeding sores in his mouth.
Exactly. So Haymitch spots this ornate eagle pitcher full of milk on Snow's desk, and without asking, without hesitating, Haymitch just picks it up and downs it.
He drinks the dictator's milk.
He just chugs it,
Yep.
wipes his mouth, and hands the empty pitcher to Plutarch with this perfectly innocent blank look on his face.
And why is that moment so powerful? Because he is shattering the sanctity of the dictator's space.
Yes.
Dictators rely on an aura of godhood. By casually drinking his milk, Haymitch reduces Snow from a deity to just an old man who needs a beverage for a cough.
It's a complete refusal to submit to the awe that the room is supposed to demand. It wasn't just a rebellious teenager acting out. It was the birth of a deliberate strategy.
But I want to push back on this a little bit.
Okay, go for it.
Because defying the Capitol in a plush library or, spitting on a rich guy in a hallway is theoretical. It's ideological.
Sure.
Eventually, the gong rings, the countdown ends,
Yeah.
and you are standing on a metal plate in the arena. How does a philosophy of refusing implicit submission actually keep you alive when 47 other kids are trying to hack you to pieces?
That is the ultimate test. And this brings us into the sheer, unrelenting meat grinder of the Second Quarter Quell.
The arena is spectacular and beautiful and utterly lethal.
And with 48 tributes, the bloodbath is just unprecedented. The sheer volume of death is overwhelming.
It is a massacre.
It really is. And Haymitch realizes very quickly that he cannot win through sheer physical dominance. I mean, he is smart, he is capable, but he is up against career tributes who have trained their entire lives for this.
So he weaponizes his intelligence instead.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he does it is brilliant. He creates a persona, the Rascal.
We see the debut of this persona during his pre-games interview with Caesar Flickerman. Let's unpack the mechanics of this interview, because it is a masterclass in psychological misdirection.
Well, absolutely. Haymitch realizes that if he acts too smart, if he acts too overtly rebellious on stage, the game makers will flag him as a threat to the system.
Right. They'll just orchestrate his death immediately. He'll get a targeted mutation or a localized disaster sent right at him on day one.
So he leans into the most dismissive, arrogant, unthreatening version of himself possible.
He walks out onto that brightly lit stage wearing cocktail glasses pinned to his vest. He acts slightly inebriated. He slurs a bit. He makes terrible, cheesy jokes.
When Caesar Flickerman asks him what he thinks about having 100% more competitors in this quell, Haymitch just waves it off. He says they'll be 100% as stupid, so his odds are exactly the same.
And then he tells Caesar that his hair is so shiny because District 12 has the best boot polish in Panem.
The audience roars with laughter. It's hilarious.
It is, but it is a desperate survival mask. He is actively using humor and sheer arrogance to hide a subversive, calculating intelligence from the very people who hold his life in their hands.
He paints himself as a selfish, lucky rogue who poses zero ideological threat to the Capitol. He plays the fool so he can live.
And this strategy buys him the ultimate currency in the game's time. It buys him sponsor support, and it lowers the game maker's guard.
He navigates the horrors of the arena by constantly evaluating the environment, looking for the seams in the Capitol's construct. which leads us to the climax at the absolute edge of the arena map.
The force field canyon? I want to paint this picture clearly for you because the imagery Collins uses here is breathtaking and horrifying all at once.
It's so intense.
Haymitch is at the absolute end of his physical rope. His body is failing. His intestines are practically falling out from a catastrophic wound.
He is literally dragging himself toward the edge of a sheer cliff, and he's being hunted by a massive career tribute named Silka.
And Silka is swinging an axe, screaming, fully embodying the bloodthirsty role the Capitol desires.
Right, she's playing the exact part they want her to play.
Exactly. And Haymitch is cornered. There is nowhere left to run. But earlier in the games, Haymitch had discovered a critical flaw in the game maker's design. He realized there was an invisible force field bounding the chasm.
And he noticed a specific physical property of this field. Anything thrown into it bounces back with equal and opposite velocity.
So he uses their own physics against them. He reaches the edge of the cliff and he just collapses. He drops to his knees. He essentially gives up.
Or so it seems.
Right. Silka stands over him, gloating, clutching her bleeding eye where Haymitch had managed to injure her earlier. She raises this massive axe high above her head and hurls it with all her might right at his skull.
And Haymitch literally just ducks.
He just ducks. The axe sails over his head, strikes the invisible force field, and rebounds instantly.
It flies backward and buries itself right in Silka's skull. It is a stunning, deeply satisfying moment of turning the Capitol's own weaponized environment against its champion.
But he doesn't stop there. This is where the seed Plutarch planted fully blooms. Beating Silka wasn't enough to break the implicit submission. He needs to break the arena.
He takes his district token, the flint striker that Lenore Dove gave him, and a blasting cap he scavenged, and he sets off a massive explosion directly against the force field itself.
He blows the boundary. He visibly ruptures the perfect, contained world the game makers built.
It is the ultimate act of defiance. He proves the Capitol's cage is fallible. And this is where the novel transitions from an action thriller into a chilling philosophical commentary on media, power, and truth.
Because the crucial question is, what happens next? Does the nation of Panem see this incredible act of intellectual rebellion? Does it spark an uprising right then and there?
No, they see nothing.
And this is the part of the book that made my blood run cold. It is so much scarier than the mutations in the arena.
It really is.
After Haymitch wins, after he is stitched up and medicated, he is sitting in a plush Capitol room watching a mandatory recap broadcast with Caesar Flickerman. He's watching the story of his own survival. And he realizes, with mounting horror, that the game makers edited the footage.
They meticulously sanitized the entire narrative. They cut out the cannon fire that would have explained the true timeline of events.
They edited out all the moments of collaboration and humanity between the tributes.
And most devastatingly, they completely erased the fact that he used the force field as a weapon of rebellion.
They splice the angles and manipulate the audio to make it look like he just stumbled, that ducking the axe was a lucky, clumsy accident.
They edit him into the exact persona he used in his interview. A selfish, stumbling, incredibly lucky rascal.
This is Suzanne Collins basically dissecting how history is written by the producers. The Capitol's greatest weapon isn't a tracker-jacker or poison gas. It is their total, unyielding control over the narrative reality of their citizens.
They took a brilliant boy who structurally broke their system, and they edited his truth out of existence.
And the most sickening part, the audience in the Capitol and even the people in the districts, they buy it. They eat the narrative up.
They cheer for the lucky rascal.
It is the ultimate erasure. They didn't just steal his childhood. They stole the truth of his survival.
They forced him back into the box of implicit submission, without him even realizing it had happened until he watched the screen. His rebellion was completely neutered by the editing bay.
You sit there reading this and you think, okay, it's horrible, it's dystopian, but he won. The games are over. He survived. He gets to go home.
But as we move into the final act of this book, the tone shifts so dramatically. Because winning the games, beating the edit, that is only half the battle.
The true, enduring horror of Sunrise on the Reaping happens after the victor's crown is placed on his head.
This is the thesis of the book, underneath all the blood and spectacle. It is an exploration of complex trauma. It is about what an authoritarian regime does to the people it cannot legally kill outright.
I need to warn you, if you are listening and you haven't read this yet, prepare yourself, because the ending will dismantle you.
It destroyed me.
Haymitch gets on the train. He goes back to District 12. He thinks he's going to walk through his front door. He thinks he's going to hug his mother. He thinks he's going to see Sid smile.
He thinks he's going to hold Lenore Dove in the meadow again.
But President Snow is not an audience member. Snow is not fooled by the edit.
Snow knows exactly what Haymitch did with that force field. He knows it was an intentional act of structural defiance, an attempt to expose the Capitol's weakness.
And Snow's retaliation is swift, absolute, and utterly disproportionate. Haymitch arrives in District 12. He's wearing these slick, patent leather Capitol shoes. He starts walking toward his neighborhood.
And as he approaches his street, he smells smoke.
The panic sets in. He breaks into a desperate run, and he rounds the corner to find his house, his home fully engulfed in roaring flames.
He tries to sprint into the inferno. He is screaming his lungs out for his mother, for Sid.
But the local peacekeepers are there waiting. They intercept him. They drag him backward away from the heat. They pin him to the dirt street, a grown man holding down every limb.
And they force him to watch.
They hold his face toward the fire. They force him to watch his house burn down to the foundation, knowing with absolute sickening certainty that his mother and his 10-year-old brother are trapped inside, burning alive.
He is literally pinned to the ground in his fancy Capitol suit, screaming until his throat bleeds, completely powerless.
But Snow's cruelty requires total annihilation. The Capitol is not finished.
Because out of the gathering crowd stumbles Lenore Dove, the girl who raised geese.
The girl who told him the sun didn't have to rise on a reaping.
She breaks through the line and collapses right into his arms, and she starts coughing. But she isn't coughing from the smoke. She starts coughing up this thick, blood-flecked foam.
The Capitol had visited her earlier. They offered her a poisoned gumdrop.
A seemingly innocent, sweet piece of candy given to a teenager.
And as she lies dying in his arms, Haymitch desperately tries to get her to throw it up. He tries to clear her airway. But it's too late. The poison was designed to be lethal, and it is already shutting down her organs.
Their final exchange in the dirt. It haunts me.
Throughout the entire book, Haymitch tells us that his response to her affection is always the same specific phrase. As she dies in his arms, coughing up blood, he tells her, "I love you like all fire."
And then she is gone.
The Capitol legally couldn't kill him in the arena because he won. So instead, they killed literally every single person he loved in the world. They excised his heart while leaving his body alive.
If we look at this through the lens of real-world psychology, it is a profound exploration of complex PTSD and survivor's guilt.
What does the human brain do when the world inflicts a pain so total, so absolute, and so unjust that it cannot be cognitively processed?
You have to find a way to numb it. If you can't process it, you have to drown it.
And this is why Haymitch drinks. It recontextualizes 20 years of his character history.
Collins weaves in this recurring motif throughout the book, referencing Edgar Allan Poe's poem, The Raven.
Yes. Haymitch drinks the nepenthe, the mythical potion of forgetfulness. He isn't drinking because he's a lazy rascal. He isn't drinking because he lacks moral fortitude.
He is drinking to silence the ghosts.
He is drinking to silence the ghost of Lenore tapping at his chamber door. He is pouring alcohol over the auditory hallucination of his mother's dying gasps in the fire and the memory of little Sid waking him up on his birthday.
He realizes that he physically survived the 50th Hunger Games, but his actual punishment is being forced to live 50 more years in a world entirely devoid of love.
And the most agonizing, soul-crushing realization comes in the final pages. He is sitting in a massive, empty house in the victor's village. He is entirely alone, surrounded by the literal and metaphorical ashes of his life.
And he realizes the true curse of being a victor.
Because he won, it means that every single year on his birthday, the sun will rise. There will be a reaping. And he will have to board a train, mentor 2 more terrified kids from District 12, send them to the Capitol, and watch them be slaughtered on television.
Over and over and over again.
Another sunrise on the reaping. The inevitability that Lenore begged him to fight against has become his eternal, personal hell.
He is trapped in a cyclical nightmare of implicit submission, forced to be an agent of the very system that destroyed him.
I am genuinely getting emotional just talking through this again. It completely breaks my heart. I will never, ever be able to read the original trilogy the same way.
Never.
When you read book 1 now, and Katniss gets furiously angry at Haymitch for being drunk, or when Peeta yells at him for being useless, you just want to reach through the pages, grab them by the shoulders, and scream, "You have no idea what they took from him."
You have no idea what it cost him to just be breathing in this room with you.
Exactly. If this conversation is bringing back all those intense feelings from when you first read the original trilogy, and it's making you look at this entire fictional universe in a completely new, devastating light, please hit subscribe.
Please do.
We do this deep dive every week, unpacking the books that stay with you, the stories that rewire your brain long after you've turned the last page. Because, man, the shadow of this one is going to linger over me for a long time.
It is a heavy text, which brings up a practical question for the listeners out there. If someone is coming to this universe for the first time, or maybe considering revisiting it, what's the verdict?
Oh, absolutely. 100% read the original trilogy first. You have to read Sunrise on the Reaping after.
I agree completely. Experiencing Katniss's eventual defiance means exponentially more when you understand the generations of crushed defiance that paved the way for her.
The dramatic irony is the entire point. The character depth, the political callbacks, the tragedy, it all hits with so much more force when you already know the broken, cynical man Haymitch becomes.
You need to see the vault sealed tight. You need to be frustrated by his silence
Yep.
before you watch Suzanne Collins tear the steel doors off the hinges and show you the bloody, charred foundation it was built upon.
Her fire burns brighter when you know the ashes she is standing on. Which leaves us with one final, lingering thought to mull over as we close.
Lay it on us.
This book is ostensibly about a fictional dystopia, but at its core, Collins is forcing us to interrogate our own reality. If the powers that be in our world can edit our memories, if algorithms and producers can control our media narratives, and if they demand our implicit submission to systems of cruelty and inequality, at what point do we stop waiting for the sun to inevitably rise and decide to light the fire ourselves?
Wow. Let's just say it with that.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredibly emotional, heavy journey back to Panem. We'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone. And remember to question the edit.